So we go to the Insider Hotline with Crystal Waters and say hello to TSN Hockey Insider Darren Dreger. There he is. Hey, Darren Dreger.
Hey, guys. What's going on today?
We're just kind of, well, there's a few things.
Yeah.
I had multiple people, and by multiple, meaning two or more, asking, so you had Dregs on. Yeah. The 3-2-1, was he talking about the tri-tip or the wings? Like what I've tried to understand. So again, our like most things, our hard-hitting hockey analysis really takes a backseat to the other bullshit that we talk about. So people were wondering about the 3-2-1 method, and we were lamenting that it feels like maybe not half, but a good chunk of this first round. We love the first round. It's often the most exciting. Has kind of been a little lackluster. So you can start wherever you choose or wherever you'd like.
Well, I'm just trying to find here. It's ribs, which is the 3-2-1 method, not the tri-tip. Okay. So let me just quickly find out let's see if I have the recipe handy. I'll quickly read it.
Are you checking with sources? Has there been a big trade?
No. I've sent the recipe to a bunch of family over the years. So normally, but I have a new phone and it's not popping up. But
yeah, that's all right.
Anyway, it's like 3 hours at a certain uncovered, I think it's like 225, right? 3 hours. And then you put the sauce on, barbecue sauce. You know, it's a dry rub that goes on there initially. Then you cover it in foil. You cook for another 2 hours at 225. And then for the final hour, you uncover, you sauce it, and you crank that heat to about 300 so that you get a nice crispy bark on top.
Yeah.
So there you go. 3-2-1 ribs. I guess I feel I'm less critical of round one of the playoffs, fellas. I for the most part, I think it's been pretty good. I mean, there's been low scoring games. Like I think of the Ottawa Carolina game last night. Obviously that series in general, I did not expect Colorado and LA to be as low scoring as it's been. So that's credit to the LA Kings. I mean, it's purely by survival, right? Like, I mean, they're finding a way to shut down Colorado. I mean, it's not going to ultimately work. They're going to end up losing the series. But there's been enough sort of stuff to keep us interested. You know, there has been, you know, like the Taylor Hall hit to Jake Sanderson, you know, last night, you know, that drew a crowd. Some of the sort of fabricated scrum things that we're seeing, you know, in that Montreal Tampa Bay series.
Greg's just one sec.
Yeah, what's going on?
Get the hell out of here! I thought that was Tiny at Dregs' house. This is your dog, Dino? What the hell's going on?
Oh, he's got him at the poolside cabana. Hey!
Jesus. I'm doing a very popular show. Dregs is on.
Was it barking or was it moving furniture?
No, there's two of them in here. They're scrapping. There's
you
this
sure?
one, and then there's come here.
That's the dog you stole from me.
It's kind of not true. Oh, that's a bigger lift right there.
Wow.
Watch your hip.
That's animal abuse. That's what that is.
Dad, what are we doing here?
It's amazing that this show continues to do the numbers.
Be quiet. Got a lot going on here, guys.
Good for you.
Trying to make a living on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, that's how. You know, it's not about our wit or our knowledge. It's about the antics, the shenanigans. That's what sells. Come on.
It's the secret sauce, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're less critical of round one than Boom. Well,
Boom's glass half empty. So
sense in all
Yeah.
areas of life.
I don't know. I'm less critical. By and large, I'm less critical.
Surprises that are popping out is Anaheim. The fact that they blew game one. It could be up 2-0. They aren't, but is that a bit of a
little bit? Not that Anaheim is maybe better than some expected. I mean, they've got an interesting balance there, don't they? Between some of the veteran guys up front that they have. Obviously, what they've got defensively, their goaltending has been good. And Cutter Gauthier is not just a regular season player. I mean, this kid can flat out play, and Leo Carlsson can flat out play and go down the list. Right. So, I think they've done a real nice job. So, there's obvious they've contained Connor McDavid to keep him off the score sheet point wise. I mean, that's remarkable through 2 games. And it's conjured up all sorts of speculation. I mean, could Connor be hurt?
He looked like it.
He wasn't putting weight on the leg when he went.
I don't know if that was a prior thing or if it just happened, but he certainly wasn't feeling good for a while.
No, like there's some rumblings he took one off the shin. I didn't see it. Maybe he did, like puck off the shin. And there's a deep bruise, which I guess you can play through. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Doesn't mean you're comfortable in doing that. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the other theories that given the amount that this man has played over the last few years, could it be that even the all great Connor McDavid is playing on fumes at this point? I mean, that feels like a bit of a stretch, but it's conceivable. The other one for me, Bouchard. Like, what is going on there?
I can never figure it out.
What is going on?
Because if I take a shot at him, he's going to have 3 points next game.
Yeah. And then Rhett's like, I can't ignore these point totals. He really has been good. And then he's in the shitter for games.
So, I'm one of the voters for the Norris Trophy. And I always proudly say this, and I'm sure over the last couple of years, I've said it a number of times on the program. I go through a year process, especially with the Norris, right? Because I think it's important to define almost each quarter of a season. It's the body of the work. It's not what you did in the final month of the regular season where you loaded up the points and all of those great things. And now all of a sudden there's a buzz because there's more attention being spent on what's upcoming, and that's the major awards ballots, right? In my brain, even though I got all the time in the world for what Bouchard did primarily in the second half. I mean, you can't ignore the point totals. You can't ignore the second half, better than the second half of the season that he had. But what about the first 15, 20 games where he was fumbling and bumbling and I mean, people just wanted to run him out of town. I mean, it was so ugly at times. And again, it's a small sample size where we're at today, but wasn't he on the ice for 5 goals against in game 2? He's got 0 points. He looks through 2 games again, just 2 games, but he looks like the guy who struggled mightily in the first 15 games of the year, right? So I don't know, man. I mean, I'm sure that lots of the voters have him top 3, maybe top 2 on their ballots, and good on him. I mean, I can recognize that. But in a crop this year where you've got 7 or 8 guys that are worthy of at least consideration and are all around solid. Now, the counter argument to what I'm saying, because it sounds like I'm just knocking holes in Bouchard, and I kind of am. The counter argument is the media that is attracted to Evan Bouchard, Canadian media. And if we paid as close attention to Cale Makar as we do to Bouchard and the mistakes that Evan Bouchard makes, we'd quickly see that, well, Cale Makar isn't flawless either. And I'm like, come on, man. I watch my share of Colorado games. I don't of course, every defenseman in the league forever makes mistakes by virtue of the position. I don't see Cale Makar doing what Evan Bouchard does when things go bad. They just seem to go really, really, really bad for Bouchard. So we'll see if they can figure it out in Edmonton. But those 2 guys aren't going. It's going to be a challenge. It is, because Anaheim now has a little bit of swagger. They've got some confidence in their series.
Yeah, it is interesting. We had Noodles on Wednesday, and he was kind of saying the same thing, talking to different analytics companies, and I was like, yeah,
He loves
according to this metric in this stat,
Bouchard.
Zach Werenski, he is an Edmonton guy. You got to watch.
Edmontonians don't fight more than it's just media.
Yeah, just hand-to-hand combat. That's the only way they fight.
Sorry, Boomer, you're talking about Werenski?
No, I was just saying, if you watch, Zach Werenski makes these same types of errors. It's like, okay, I'll believe the numbers and the metrics and all of that, but it just feels like, again, that game the other night, maybe it's just one game.
Yeah,
he's distracted. He thinks he got high stuck, so he's yipping at the ref, and the puck's in the net, and he's complaining to the ref, and he's falling down, and anyway,
the body language is what kills him.
Yeah,
because if you look at what he contributes versus what he gives up, and you don't have the video to watch it, you're like, well, shit, he outchances everyone every night, even when the good guys aren't on the ice. But then when you watch the film, you're like, oh, these feel so simple. And why does the give a fuck look like it's stuck on idle sometimes? I feel like his highlight reel in his own zone is the biggest.
We could have a hell of a tape over the last 82.
And they do. And it's in a market where everyone's watching because Connor's there. So no one's missing the glaring mistake. If Werenski does the same thing, no one sees it.
Yeah. No, and I mean, look, we went after McDavid as a collective media, the other night. The mistakes that he made. He didn't escape criticism. I mean, it comes with the job. But obviously, in McDavid's case, the good far outweighs the bad. And maybe that's why we put him under the microscope the other night, was because we're just not accustomed to that. We're just not used to seeing it. But anyway, on Bouchard, he's going to be on the ballot. He's going to finish top 3, top 4, probably. Yep. I just, I'm going to start defending myself because I learned a long time ago. I go to former Norris Trophy winners when I'm going through my process over the course of the year. And I'm reminded of the things that you need to do to be in Norris consideration. That's all. And this year, there's a handful of players that should be in that consideration.
I can't recall a ballot so tough. Like there was half a decade where you just gave it to Lidstrom and you didn't have to think. But you look at Werenski, you look at Dahlin, especially since the personal tragedy they had to deal with, and he came back. Has been dominant ever since. Quinn Hughes, since arriving in Minnesota, is playing more hockey than anyone else in the NHL in a big role. Cale Makar, still Cale Makar. On and on the list goes. Like
Lane Hudson,
have you had as tough a time as this year?
No, this was a challenge, as big a challenge as I can recall, right? Automatically you're drawn to the history of Cale Makar and you go, okay, well, early on anyways, you go into the season, you're like, okay, well, it's probably going to be his again to lose, or, who's going to be better. And then you start to watch Werenski and this, now we're 15 games in, now we're 30, now we're 50, and man, he's good. And and he's just doing all of the right things out there. And then, when they made the move in Buffalo and the Sabres took off, that's where, again, I think the spotlight, maybe to Noodles and others' point of media paying closer attention, our eye was drawn to Rasmus Dahlin and what the Buffalo Sabres are and were doing at that time. I quickly inserted Lane Hudson into that conversation because when you look at the breakdown of numbers, and analytics do matter. I think 5-on-5, his numbers defensively are pretty solid. So you go through that entire process, you do. But this year for me, I start probably 10 days in advance of when the deadline is to submit, and you scrape down probably 10 names in most of I get to the Selke and the Lady Bing, and I'm out of gas.
I was going to offer you some advice. Just look at don't put so much into it. Nobody's
well, I know that, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, you get to the Lady Bing and you're like, oh.
It does,
and nobody, you can't even do some research aside from doing the research that's available statistically, because with all due respect to those who have won the Lady Bing and are deserving to be on that 5-person ballot, you ask guys who are in the Hall of Fame, what do you think? If you looked at Lady, I don't care.
It's a useless award. We have one for defensemen, and we still
sort of kind of is. With all due respect, I'm saying this with as much respect as I can muster. At least the Selke, again, like that's a coveted trophy. That's a trophy it's a badge of honor for a lot of guys. So, but I get to probably 2, maybe 3 days before submission, and then I really start to bear down. And I bet you I changed the 4 or 5. Well, you only put 5 guys on a ballot, but 4, 5, 6 on the Norris. I bet you I juggled those guys 10 times.
Yeah.
Okay, he's in, he's out. Nah, he's in again. Nah, he's out. I talked to this guy. I trust that guy. It's painful.
We didn't even mention Mo Siders having an awesome year.
Oh, he's on my list for sure.
Yeah.
Tremendous. But there again,
tough year.
If you're awarding it by definition of what the trophy embodies, Mo Siders should be top 2, worst case, top 3 on most ballots. He should be by definition of the award. Really good.
So some other series, you've seen overtime twice with Tampa, Montreal. What do you like about this series? What there isn't there to like in this series? My God, it's been unreal.
Yeah. Everything about it, the way that Juraj Slavkovsky made the splash in the opening game of the hat trick, all 3 goals on the power play. Did not see that. Didn't have it on my bingo card. I did think he would be a factor, which is kind of obvious, but more so from a physical pushback, because so many people want to just breathe life into this world of the Tampa Bay Lightning are this big bullyish team. You know, they've taken a page from their rival Florida Panthers, and they're going to punch you in the face and beat you on the score sheet. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, we'll see how it plays out. I'm not diminishing that tactic, but I guess my point was I just don't see Montreal wilting in that environment, and they haven't.
No.
You know, there's been a lot of after the whistle nonsense where, for me, it's almost fake scrums, right? Like, nothing really happened to encourage the scrum, but here we go. You know, we got one guy jostling because somebody had the audacity to stand within 3 feet of the crease. And so he deserves the dirty glove to the face. And then that draws a crowd. No punches are thrown. Inevitably, there's no penalties, but it still happens whistle after whistle after whistle. And I think the supervisors crack down on that now to say, okay, Tampa especially, we can see it's a tactic. You know, you're the most penalized team in the league. We're going to start calling more penalties on you if you continue, because you're not going to, like, Juraj Slafkovsky shouldn't have taken the bait from Brandon Hagel. I mean, good on the kid. He stood in there. Enough of you. You know, I'm going to deal with this right here, right now. He got popped, a pretty good one right to the kisser, went down, got up, and has never looked back. But that's not going to happen again. So, you know, is
this been ingrained in Tampa Bay because they've been bullied by Florida?
Mm-hmm.
All goes back to that, right?
Copycat for sure. Yeah. Now I say that because it's worked for the Panthers. It's more across their DNA though in Florida, right? Everybody will do it that wears a Panthers uniform, and I don't think that you expect that from every player with Tampa Bay Lightning. But then, you know, I give John Cooper credit. I mean, of course, we remember the Corey Perry days, you know, and he's still being a pest out there. Although I love that guy, man. I hope he plays till he's 50. Like him in the penalty box the other night, just giving it to whomever he was giving it. You're terrible. Like, I mean, I got all the time in the world for that. But, you know, you remember Patty Maroon being brought in there. Yep. And, I mean, there were times he was on the power play. You know, the guy could barely get from point A to point B, but knew his role and played it effectively and could be a deterrent at times. So it's always been there for John Cooper. It's just the last couple of seasons, I think he's seen the success of the Panthers, obviously, and has gone, okay, we need to have a little bit more of that.
He might have changed his tune if the Canadians scored that Sabres goal late in game 3. Or
honestly.
The penalty, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and so that was an interesting one. And I don't think the broadcast did much about it, but that's a sneaky play by Josh Anderson too, right? Because right at the last second, you can see Anderson's shoulder checks.
Yeah.
He shoulder checks and he can see him coming, or at least he knows something's coming. Now, he didn't really have to brace. It was just a dumb execution by Scott.
It was more I'm going to throw myself out there, and if he does it, perfect.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
I'm sacrificing. I don't know if he will, but if he does, great.
I'm going to stay down for an extra 15, 20, maybe 30 seconds. You know, hey, hit me in the numbers, man. I know it wasn't up against the boards, but that's a dangerous hit. We can't have that in hockey. And he draws the penalty, you know, and then Lane Hudson hits the post. I mean, it could have been game, set, and match on that play. But, you know, I have time for Scott Sabourin because, again, that role is Dinosaurville, right? You know, and he can play. It's not like he can't play. I thought that he was overplayed. I mean, it was pretty obvious that Cooper had him out there trying to get under the skin specifically of Josh Anderson. Well, Anderson's not taking that fight. Why would you?
Around it. Yeah. We've got a guy in the room who's an idiot, but more importantly, what's wrong with Pittsburgh? Because we thought this series, we were begging for this series to come together. Philly has rolled them up.
That Philly team, man, they just tick so many boxes. And I wonder, like, Philly, Carolina, I don't like.
First goal wins.
Honestly. And How entertaining is it going to be? Well, the young guys might bring the juice. So, like Logan Stankoven, that second line, I don't know what the hell's going on with Taylor Hall, but he's like in a renaissance period for him. Like the chemistry between him and Stankoven is off the charts right now. But then over on that Philly side, guys, O-Dog and I talked about this on set last week. It's coming out party is a little strong for Porter Martone because he just hasn't played enough yet. So let's see what he has to give, if there's more to give in a year, maybe 2 years from now. But I remember I spent a bit of time in Minnesota at the World Juniors and watching him there, and he was just another player, which sounds ridiculous, right? Yeah. I mean, that's major junior. Granted, it's their biggest showcase game outside of the World Junior Championship. But, you watch certain players because of the fanfare and you're like, okay, I expect to see a bit more. And, it wasn't there. He's a very good player. But now you're watching him in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And Ray Ferraro made a good point on the podcast, wondering whether or not these kids now are better programmed than ever to not get overwhelmed in a moment. That's not to say that they're not going to make mistakes because of the pace of the game at the NHL level, especially in the playoffs, the physicality in the playoffs, but the emotional magnitude doesn't get to them because they've experienced it at the Memorial Cup. They've experienced it on the World Junior stage. They've experienced it in other environments. Okay, so the physicality is different. The speed of the game is different, but the mental toughness almost comes along as part of their skill set. And that makes sense to me when I think of like Porter Martone to me looks like he's played in the National Hockey League for 3 or 4 years.
Totally.
Like he's just phenomenal.
He looks like an all-star.
He's, and then you look at some of the other pieces, like they can manage Mishkov now. Owen Tippett has elevated his game to another level. Jamie Drysdale, like go down the list of all the players. Vladar is a question now, but the goaltending that they've received has been terrific in Philadelphia. And I guess by comparison, to bring it back to Pittsburgh, they've made Pittsburgh look old and slow. Mm-hmm. And man, that hurts the feelings to say that out loud because of the Hall of Famers that are just trying to grind it out for one more crack.
Are they old and slow? I mean, no one expected them to make the playoffs. We kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday. And you give them all kinds of credit for what they've done this year.
Yeah.
100%. But now it's playoffs. And you got a young team you're playing against.
Yeah.
And they look old and slow.
Well, maybe but is it, Rhett, is it that that's how good the Philadelphia Flyers are and how complete their game is right now that they're making them look old? Look at by birth certificate alone. I mean, obviously they've got 3 old goats out there.
And those guys, and Sid looks a little bit injured. Letang looks
all right.
He's been turnstiled a few times.
Yeah, there are some guys that look.
Yeah.
But no matter what, whether the birth certificates say it, Philly, the way they're handling him says it.
Yeah.
And even if it's because Philly's on a roll and playing the best, you have to beat those teams if you want to be a playoff or have to take a run at things, right?
Yeah.
And that's who you have to compare against.
Did you see? Yeah, of course he did. But I think wasn't it Martone who got it? Like he clipped somebody, whatever, or Letang did. And Martone skated kind of from behind him and just kind of fish hooked him from behind over the head skating by. And I'm like, oh boy. And that was so part of me is like, oh my God, I love this kid. And then the second part of me is why isn't somebody two-handing that kid across the shins? Like, what are we doing here?
Think about what's going through Rick Tocchet's head. My 19-year-old just walked up to one of the best defensemen of his time. He's a Hall of Famer, and fish hooked him.
Like,
he's played 9 games or whatever in the NHL, and he's doing this to these all-stars. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, but that series it's unfortunate. I mean, I don't see Pittsburgh getting off the mat. It's no different than Ottawa, Carolina. You do have to respect the talent in each dressing room and say, okay, sweeps don't happen very often, so I guess it's unlikely it happens here. I'm not so sure in this Philly-Pittsburgh series. With all the momentum that the Flyers have, I love Sidney Crosby. It pained me to see him sit in that penalty box and an embellishment call the other day. It was just, I mean, come on, what are we doing here? But it does feel like whatever their gas tank is, it's on fumes.
Can you give some love to my Sabres squad? Is that a
big win last
night? Ask that of you, or like what? I thought last night was their best game. I didn't think the 2 games in Buffalo were very good at all.
And I'll tell you what, if they can duplicate that, they've got Boston in a jam here, because how else do you explain, like, Buffalo outplayed Boston last night? I mean, they just flat out did, almost in every sense of that description. So is that a Buffalo thing, elevating their game? Is it Boston just not having their A game? Obviously a little bit of both, perhaps. Curious goaltending decision.
Yeah,
but what's that?
Ballsy.
But then you see, again, I didn't know, Rhett, did you know? I didn't know Alex Lyon had that sort of fire in his belly. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. See him chirping. I think it was Tanner Janot he was yipping at the other night, right? Like, come on. When your goalie is asking a player, you want to go? I mean, I got all the time in the world for that. But I also think we've seen enough, haven't we, of the 1A goaltending town in the Stanley Cup playoffs, where why are we surprised when teams do this kind of stuff? I'm not
surprised with Buffalo, because they did it all year.
They've rolled 3 guys this year, because even the kid from the East Coast has been in there a bit, Ellis.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to love. Again, I feel bad. Josh Norris, that kid just cannot stay.
What is the deal there? I'm sure it's playoffs. They're not releasing anything.
No. Like, was it maybe a conky? I don't know. I think it looked a bit odd just based on that hit, but he's such a good player. I'm reminded of the Robbie Thomas deal with Buffalo that didn't go down. And he was a piece that Jarmo wouldn't part with, because you make that trade and maybe you get stronger up the middle by bringing Robert Thomas in, but you've weakened yourself as well in the process by including a veteran guy, when healthy, is a real good player, Josh Norris. So
yeah, the point of the trade is to make it undeniable down the middle with Norris in the line.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Final thought on Dallas, Minnesota. We haven't touched that series. It's probably going to end up being the best, although it was kind of lopsided in games 1 and 2, and then we got a dandy in game 3.
Yeah, and that's the Stars facing adversity. Glenn Gulletson suggested Rupe Hintz would be of a pre-series talked about. Well, he's going to miss the first 2 games. I don't think he's available in round 1.
Yeah.
That's a big hole. That's a big miss. And Heiskanen came into the series, and what was he at? Maybe 60%. You could see it in the first game. Nobody was good for Dallas in the opening game of that series. And, the ghosts from Pete DeBoer kind of started to hover above Jake Ottinger in that first game. And we're all like, is this going to be the pickup where Ottinger left off? But he's been lights out good in the last couple of games. And, you look at the players who are scoring for the Dallas Stars, right? Jason Robertson. If I'd have been picking or had a voice in the Olympic team selection process, Wyatt Johnson would have been right up there. Right up there.
Plays the right way.
I like Seth Jarvis. I do. Nice player. I mean, I would have had Wyatt ahead of Seth Jarvis. There's some familiarity to Four Nations and whatnot, I guess, but not underrated, because you guys watch every Western Conference game, so you know how good Wyatt Johnson is. I think in the East, maybe there's a bit of a struggle recognizing how talented this kid is, but you get Wyatt Johnson going, you get Jason Robertson going, Matt Duchene has a nice night the other night, Jake Ottinger is stopping the puck. If they can clean up, they were undisciplined in that game. They got away with, like, how many off the top of my head, I want to say that Minnesota had 3 power plays in the third period and 2 in the first overtime period, and couldn't capitalize. Yeah. Now, they don't have Zuccarello, and everybody's making a big deal of that, and I can appreciate that. He's a power play guy. But, man, those
7 power plays. Yeah, 1 for 7.
Yeah. Like, those are gifts. And so Dallas is going to have to clean that up. But if they do, given the push of their star players, they're a pretty confident group. So Minnesota's got a tough one ahead.
Tonight, we'll just kind of across the board. 3 series, all of them tied at 1 apiece. Who needs game 3 the most? Montreal, Tampa, Vegas, Utah, or Edmonton, Anaheim?
I feel like Montreal. I do. Yeah. Nick Suzuki put a lot of heat on himself the other night. He hasn't been overly productive. Caulfield's got some assists, but they're not generous. They're not scoring goals. And obviously Cole Caulfield, that's what he's there to do, is to score goals. But, we talked about the major awards. When you're matched up against that Anthony Cirelli line, you've got to find a way to push through the wall, and they haven't been able to do that. So it's a combination of things that.
So home ice help that?
Big time.
What's that?
Home ice help that?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, like St. Louis is going to be able to control that now,
Yeah.
so that's a big difference.
That's a big difference. It absolutely is, and that atmosphere is second to none. That environment is going to be rocking. Now, I would submit that, of course, that's going to favor the Montreal Canadiens. But, Rhett, you played in Montreal a bunch of times, man. Whether it's that building or the old Forum, when the visiting team would go in there, they feed off of it too. It's electric. Well, it's vibrating in there.
Yeah, the emotion's going to be so high for both sides. And it's not like Tampa. I talked about it last week. I loved going into a place like Philly that wanted to slaughter you game 1. I didn't play in Montreal, Toronto, and the semifinal. Those crowds are on you, but you can feed off it too. And Tampa's no rookie squad that's not being through it.
No. I thought Montreal played better in game 2. Now they won game 1 in overtime. St. Louis, though, was very honest post-game. He said, look, we didn't have the same poise in the third period, which is hard to comprehend. Why would you take your foot off the pedal after you played pretty solid for the first 40 minutes? Now you're going to just click into defend mode in the third period? No, keep throwing it at them, and so that'll be an area. I do expect that it is not must win. That's maybe exaggerating a little bit, but it's certainly a big opportunity on home ice that Montreal needs to take advantage of.
I know you got to go, but I have to ask: is there, in today's era? I think about Anaheim playing Edmonton. You can't sit back.
Yeah.
Boston's up by 2. Buffalo puts on a charge and wins the game.
Yeah.
Montreal I don't know that era exists anymore. You have to be able to play strong defensively, but absolutely sitting back and shutting another team down, I don't know if you can do it.
I don't think you can either, especially not against an experienced squad like Tampa Bay. They've got so many different ways to beat you, from, the big boys shooting the puck from the point. I mean, go down the list, right? They're opportunistic. Kucherov with a sneaky one the other night. There's just so many different weapons. But maybe that's, even though I think it's unfair to label the Montreal Canadiens as inexperienced, maybe there's just a hint of that in a situation, because it's not like Marty wasn't watching it unfold in front of him in the third period. I guarantee you, every line change, he's reminding the fellas, come on, let's get after it here. Let's play our game, and they didn't respond. So could there be just still a hint, a layer of that uncertainty in the Montreal game? Maybe.
Byfield last year, Kirby Doc this year, little plays, experience, it does matter. And I got to let you go, but I love the fact that you say Marty St. Louis behind a bench in the Stanley Cup playoffs, talking to his players, because there's kids coaches out there that are coaching 12-year-olds and 16-year-olds, and they won't talk to them.
Yeah.
No,
because they don't want to talk to the parents.
It's because they're lazy and I'll teach them at practice. No. In game, buddy. In game. Coach these kids.
By the way, you got me started on something real quick. We don't have to go into a deep philosophical debate over minor hockey, but I talked to someone last night, and I was blown away by this. So this is how the GTHL works in Toronto. You pay up front, okay? So you put your 9 large on the table for little Jenny, little Johnny to play their hockey for the year. And if we fundraise properly, we'll give you some of that money back. As opposed to, All right, well, let's do it in installments. Your first installment is like 2 G's, but we've got a fundraiser coming up here next month. And if that fundraiser goes well, we're gonna make probably between $5,000 and $7,000. So that'll cover us. And then we'll ask you for another $1,000, a month, so that now mom and dad are out of pocket $4,000, and they can manage
They're
that
invested
over the course
in
of the year.
T-bills, getting 3%.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. And you got coaches making between 35 and 100 in the GTHL, so that's where they're at. See, you shouldn't have got me. As soon as you said minor hockey, my wires.
We should have a hockey summit on minor hockey. Here's a great idea, though.
Yeah,
and I'm serious about this. We've not done it, but in Buffalo, maybe you do it in Ontario. I don't know. A meat raffle.
Yeah, we've done that. Yeah,
I love them.
Meat raffle, bacon sales are big. Stuff like that.
I think you're thinking of a different meat raffle than I'm saying. I'm not saying you go around and ask everyone if they want bacon or sausage or pre-made burgers.
All right.
This is an event, and you got guy up front, and there's spinning wheels, and you're drawing numbers. It's a hoot.
It's Keno meets.
Artie, the one-man party does it in Buffalo. You have them up there in no time.
We used to have poker nights, which always seemed a little sketchy, shady for me.
That is a little greasy, yeah.
Like their cash buys, all this kind of stuff. And then but they were like, I mean, you'd make $10,000. It was like a tap-in fundraiser until someone who has to remain unnamed puked all over the card table. Wasn't me. And that was it.
I can't believe Bob McKenzie would do that. That's so disappointing.
Geez. Appreciate you, Dregs. Enjoy the rest of round one. We'll talk in a week.
All right, fellas. Have a good one.
Hey, all you dusters. Thanks for watching. Apparently, I'm supposed to tell you to hit like and subscribe. You sound like a real cheese ball.
Cheese